Talking to Jack Cary, who is a paranormal investigator and researcher. He has lots of really cool experiences, heaps of wisdom. I'm really excited to jump right in. But before we do that, I just wanted to apologize for any jumping around with the editing. We did have a bit of a time filming. We, I guess, aimed to sort of do the whole 45-minute hour interview, but it didn't work out that way because every 5 minutes or so we were disconnected. So we had to keep picking up from where we left off. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll jump right in.
The paranormal is kind of where my whole field is, and that's my expertise.
So how long have you been involved in paranormal research, right? So
Right. Well, going on 30 years.
Wow.
So yeah. There you go. So when I got out of the U.S. Navy, I began to pursue my lifelong passion of paranormal research because I realized that was kind of my true path in life. And nothing else really grabbed my attention like that did. Mm-hmm. And I decided that would be my path. And so it's led me here, which it's interesting because I come across podcasters like yourself all the time who are unaware of my efforts and all of that. But if you Google my name and the word paranormal, they'll come up with pages of stuff that I've done.
You have an experience early on that led you to this fascination and desire and interest?
Yes, I absolutely did. I grew up in southeastern Oklahoma, which here at that point in time, for a very long time, it was just called Indian Territory. During the Civil War, there were white settlers there, and they were mostly Irish, and my family were some of them. And they were called the Sooners, and that's where we get our sports names from. If you ever hear the word Oklahoma Sooner, it means that they're an Irish settler who left the night before the official gun bang of the land rush. And they claimed all this prime land all through Oklahoma, and that's why they're called the Sooners, because they got there sooner than everybody else. And my family's been here that long. And I'm part Choctaw Indian. My grandfather was Choctaw, which is a native tribe here in Oklahoma itself, even before it became sort of the territory for all the tribes that they tried to relocate here. And I grew up in this antebellum mansion, which was built prior to the Civil War, and it was as haunted could be. So there were dishes that would fly out of the cabinets and smash on the floor, and full shadow entities that would walk through the house and that whole thing. And so I grew up in that environment, and it kind of led me to, where I am today.
Yeah, right. And you've gone from not only the paranormal, because I see a lot of split and division still in a lot of these different areas. So we have sort of the paranormal stuff, and then we have the people that are really interested in cryptids and, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, that sort of thing. And then we have people that are the UFO and the third density alien extraterrestrial, and then we've got the extra dimensional.
I'm glad you brought that up. So in my world, paranormal is an umbrella term to describe all of those things.
Beautiful.
So I have 4 published books, and my most popular book is called Paranormal Planet. And it deals with the fact that we have a wide array of paranormal activity all occurring within small geographic areas and in places around the world. And I spent 25 years investigating these places and cases that happened there. And those are all chronicled in that book. But I've also written a book called American Sorcerer. I've written a book called Bigfoot Unleashed. And my latest book, which I just released a year ago, is called The Enoch Code, which traces what probably is the lost tomb of one of the 2 Enochian or Anunnakian brothers that were actually in charge of this planet at the time when the Anunnaki were on the Earth. So if you could find a particular tomb, then you could prove the entire ancient alien theory. And I found a code encoded basically in some ancient Renaissance paintings. And that code I talk about all through my book there. I was invited to the Gaia-Sphere Ancient Civilizations Conference. I was on that series for 3 years. So I did 36 episodes of Ancient Civilizations here in the US, which has had over 10 million viewers now. So
that's fantastic. Is that accessible on YouTube or?
It's accessible on Amazon Prime. If you probably have access to that there. Yeah.
Awesome. So at the moment you're doing, I saw recently, I think I contacted you shortly after that post that you put up about a course that you're going to be doing.
Absolutely. And in fact, I was just preparing, I'm about to sneeze, so excuse me for a moment. No, I'll be all right. I was just preparing to do the first part of the course. Actually, the last 2 days and today and this evening, I've been packing up to go out to a place called Greenleaf State Park here in Oklahoma, where there's been a ton of so-called Bigfoot sightings. And there we're going to basically set up camp and do a full investigation, but at the same time, I'm going to begin to film my Cryptozoology 101 course, which will teach people how to actually be a cryptozoologist. I was lucky enough to be the student of the world's best cryptozoologist for a number of years, and his name was J.C. Johnson, and he passed away about 10 years ago. And during our time together, he really taught me the science and art of cryptozoology, of hunting animals that science hasn't recognized exist quite yet. And that encompasses 3 different circles. Some of those are prehistoric species. Some of them are species that people find too incredible to believe, like Bigfoot, for instance. And then some of them are species that are newly evolved and are unrecognized. You know, as evolution keeps going, new species keep being born, and part of cryptozoology is to identify those species and to find samples of them.
I suppose it's difficult to examine something that is in a higher dimension when it's really limiting, I suppose, because you've got, the human eye. I think it can pick up like 12 images, and then a camera like 32 or something, and then you've got an entity like a Sasquatch that can vibrate at around 400. So our what we have here in this density is limiting.
Yeah, I love the fact that you know those things. That's fascinating to me, because vibration, frequency, sound, those are the keys to our reality matrix. And even Tesla recognized that fact. and was also he also made the interesting observation that the numbers 3, 6, and 9 ruled the universe. Well, if you look up the frequencies of what those numbers are and their interplay with one another, they all come down to light wave harmonics, which is just fascinating. So it's like light waves being able to vibrate at certain frequencies with one another in such a way that it reverberates across the entire universe instantaneously, you know. But what I do is I'm an accountant. I audit mysteries. From the very first thing ever published about them to the very last thing that's been published about them, I go through every single line and I dissect all of it, and I find the patterns, and then I find a lot of hidden patterns that are there. And this is going to be a little disorientating, but I absolutely am going to do this, and I'm going to show you what one of my whiteboards looks like during a forensic investigation.
Ooh.
This is me dissecting right now the Hitchhiker Effect, of which I have to now explain stuff.
That's fantastic.
So, in advanced paranormal theory, and in our newest understanding of what paranormal is, we have come across what's called the Hitchhiker Effect. In a nutshell, this is what the new Pentagon report has stated to our government officials from the U.S. Navy's interaction with UFOs, etc. So they launched a program, and that program at the Pentagon was called AUTIP and ASOP. Both of them were designed to study the UFO phenomenon from different perspectives. The first perspective was from the nuts and bolt perspective. These craft are defying, Newtonian physics. How is it they can do that? Is there another physics possible, etc.? The OSAP program was designed in order to study what we call the Hitchhiker Effect today. So all of the people involved in the original program, they would have interactions with UFOs only to go home later on and have profound paranormal experiences in their home that were unrelated to what we would think a UFO phenomenon would be about. For instance, they would go home and experience poltergeist activity, shadow entities walking across the room, all kinds of like physical objects manifesting in the house and then blinking out of existence. And in one of those cases, it was interaction with a cryptid animal. That's fascinating to me, because they chronicled this interaction with a cryptid animal, which here in the U.S. we call a dog man, or werewolf, etc., with the Hitchhiker Effect. And this is in the actual scientific Pentagon report, which everybody out there can read now, and it's in the book Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. So take a look at that.
They've been here as early as, the dinosaurs, if not earlier, and they are very connected to this planet, very connected to the frequencies and the energies here, to nature. They're highly telepathic as well. And a lot of them, they have the ability to be, I think what a lot of people don't understand is these guys, a lot of these beings are of such a high frequency and so telepathic that they can come in and out of they're seen when they want to be seen.
I'm glad you bring that up. They materialize when they hit this vibrational plane, right? I was going to bring up an FBI memo that I have on my website that was released by FOIA request here in the U.S., which is Freedom of Information Act. This memo, strangely enough, was written 2 days after the supposed crash at Roswell, right? And they're talking about exactly It happens almost every time I get on a good interview, like something shorts out. And I just got back from Fort Lauderdale where do you know who Nick Pope is?
No.
Okay, so Nick Pope was the guy that ran the British government's UFO investigation program for 20 years. And he's on virtually every documentary out there today concerning UFOs. And he has his own television show now. And I just got back from filming on his TV show in Fort Lauderdale studios. And they gave me 15 questions having to deal with exactly what you and I are talking about. So it's fascinating that comes back around, that kind of synchronicity.
How have you gone, like, when you go out looking for these beings, these entities, these energies? I imagine that you have some equipment, but I imagine that you also have to prepare yourself energetically as well.
I do. If well, you haven't read it, but people who have read my book, American Sorcerer, know what my techniques are. Mm-hmm. So I'm an initiate of the ancient mystery schools and direct lineal in that knowledge. And that's all presented in my book. And I actually protect myself in a number of ways before I go out into these deep wood areas. At the same time, some of the animals that I'm hunting, I'm well aware, are purely physical in nature, and some of them are not. They appear to be interdimensional in nature. And so it's one of those things where you kind of have to prepare both ways. You have to be not only a good woodsman, just able to survive and know what you're doing in the woods, but you also have to. So see that happens.
When there's, it's either like playing games or trying to hinder a message.
The Hitchhiker Effect.
I mean, these, like, do you refer to this being as Sasquatch or Bigfoot, or?
I prefer the word Sasquatch.
So as I understand, they're actually referred to, or what they preferred to be called, is the Satyrscate.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, the Satyrscate or Satyrscate. I think it's Satyrscate.
That's funny. So if you go to paraintelagency.com, mm-hmm. That's my personal website, and you'll see my the special reports that I publish for people that subscribe to the site.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like $20 a year, so it's like $1.60 a month. You know what I mean? Right. It's barely anything.
And it's supporting you.
Thank you. But on top of that, my YouTube channel, which is just Paranormal Intelligence Agency, I publish a lot of just full-length investigative videos of all of my research. So you can get on there and actually look at all of my cryptozoology work and all of the cases that I've done, etc. And that doesn't cost you anything other than maybe having to watch a 30-second commercial or whatever they do on YouTube. You know what I mean? So I encourage people to do that if they're interested in my research.
I'm just really interested, I suppose, in, you know, these entities. They can read our energy, they can read our intentions. So have you?
Oh yeah.
Have you noticed from people that don't? Have you noticed more and more people coming forward that are not just from people that have had the intention already set to have contact with these beings, but just more and more people in general that are opening up to this, their energies and their frequency, their vibration, and having these experiences?
Not like you. You seem to, and that's what I was coming back to. So I described your ability as being paranormal intelligence. So you're able to pick up on vibrations of paranormal things subjects and beings, etc., and it bring you real intelligence as to what their intentions are and their, how they're actually constructed and all of that. And that's kind of why I founded the organization that I did, was to actually have people like that be able to read these mysteries and just feed that kind of information into it, because that kind of information comes from a pure source that you're not going to get through any sort of books or documentaries or field research or anything else. It's kind of like remote viewing, but in a way it's remote viewing the actual essence of a mystery. And that's really, really cool. So I commend you.
Well, I love what you're doing, and I'm glad that we have been able to speak, because something that's been coming up for me more and more is I suppose, the perception that all of these things are, or the misconception that there's a heap of things happening in the physical, or that they're in this other dimension that we can't access, and that the understanding is that everything's intertwined, and that, like you said, this whole paranormal umbrella, it doesn't surprise me at all that people are going home and having these experiences, because I look at everyone, have you seen those like videos where you can view things in like energy and things like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I kind of, in my inner vision, see that in the world, just that's the world that I view. And so like it makes sense that everything interacting energetically is obviously going to have some kind of effect. So when one energy moves away, it's still going to be holding on to some of that and taking it home. And that frequency is going to make them, able to access other things on that level as well. To have
I love experiences. That's amazing insight. In fact, you just worded that perfectly. All right, craziness.
For the fourth.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So just
you won't forget this.
Energy doing strange things and staying with us. We've been booted off our Zoom a number of times now.
Yeah. Yes, and you just stated that so eloquently. In a way, I've been trying to do so for a while. Energy, interacting with other energy, then separating, but taking some of the other energy with it, right? Mm. And because of that, it can access it again and again. Is that basically what you were saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to extend upon that energetic imprint. So,
wow, I think that's great. I wonder, this equation I just came up with. So I don't know if you know who Terence McKenna is, but this is a great way to kind of wrap it up. So Terence McKenna had a statement that has always stayed with me during this whole investigation. And he said that we live in a symbiotic relationship with something that disguises itself as an alien invasion so as not to alarm us. Mm-hmm. Those were his exact words, right? The two major things that we have that are constants with the UFO phenomenon is one, UFO material, nuclear material. Number two, we now know is the Hitchhiker Effect. Because of that, I came up with an equation that the phenomenon P, which is, look at that. Because of that P, which is the umbrella part of the equation, stands for phenomenon, equals symbiosis plus quantum times entanglement. Mm-hmm. So what you're looking at is a phenomenon in which humanity is interacting, in which there is a symbiosis taking place, and that symbiosis is taking place on a quantum level through quantum entanglement. And that's producing these paranormal effects that we're seeing around us.
I think so. And I think that, we're multi-dimensional beings, and people are starting to realize that. So it's not just here and now in the physical that we're interacting, but we're also interacting on many different densities, on different levels, in different ways, and that are mostly or have been unconscious to us until this point.
Absolutely. I think you're so right about that, but really nice.
Yeah, I very much enjoy these discussions, and I think that more and more discussions about this, more and more people just having open, talking about this openly is really helping. It's bringing it, I suppose, solidifying it, bringing it into the reality. And it's once it's an idea, once it's a belief, it does hold such great power. And we are, again, like I said, all multidimensional, so we all have access to that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And the more that I conduct this investigation into the Hitchhiker Effect, the more that's being proven true to me. The best book out there right now was written by the principal scientist of the entire program. His name is Dr. Colm Kelleher, and it's called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. And it's readily available around the world on Amazon. I encourage everybody to read about that because it has revolutionized paranormal research altogether. And it's led me into a whole new realm of advanced paranormal theory, which is now really just beginning to gain attention around the world. I've been able to trace the Hitchhiker Effect all the way back to the very first interaction in modern day of UFOs and a man named Kenneth Arnold, who you probably recognize the name of. And right as he was having his experience with those 9 UFOs, which he said skipped in the air like disc on water, so we have the term flying disc, his daughter in their home had a blue orb experience. Now that's quantum entanglement on a very deep level, right? And so I think what we're seeing is a prime example, and we're beginning to see the true nature of what the phenomenon is.
Yes.
I would love to share this interview with my audience too. So if you give me a link once you upload it, I will do that.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Oh, I have had a great time talking to you, Sally. Anytime. So have me back.
I'll provide all of the links, the book that Jack mentioned, and all the links to his work and where you can find his show on YouTube. And yeah, please go and support him and what he's doing. There's some really amazing people out there doing some amazing work at the moment. And I feel very grateful to be able to have these discussions with them and be somebody that is able to help get that stuff out to the public. It's fantastic, and it is a collective effort. Everybody needs to be involved. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.